President Trump says he's going to impose a 100% tariff on semiconductors, but will make exceptions for businesses that invest in the U.S. Joining us now, Miriam Sapiro. She served as both acting and deputy U.S. trade representative in the Obama administration. She's now a non-resident senior advisor with bipartisan national security think tank CSIS. Earlier, and it's good to have you, Miriam, thanks. Earlier, we just noted, wow, more tariffs, market up 250, and a lot of people were saying market's not up on the tariffs, it's up on the carve-outs. And we're finding more and more about how these things are going to, and nobody knows, and it seems that sometimes that you can't in advance know exactly how it's going to work. But are there considerations taken into account in levying these things, and could it be a net positive?
Well, I think, Joe, the jury's still out. The market's up in terms of futures this morning because I think some of the volatility that we're seeing in the tariff world right now has already been priced in. But the challenge, as we know, is that U.S. companies and U.S. consumers crave clarity. And right now, unfortunately, we're still seeing a lot of confusion and uncertainty in terms of the tariff policies. We know tariffs can be a really effective tool when they're used in a way where the purpose is clear and the cost-benefit analysis is clear. Both Republican and Democratic administrations have used them over the years to protect U.S. industry from unfair competition. But in those cases, the companies know what's covered and they know what to expect. And President Trump, we've seen, has been wielding tariffs in new ways now, and the jury is still out on what that's going to mean for the U.S. economy.
Yeah. I mean, you look at, some of the drop-dead dates, and those get pushed back, and then some deals have been made, and some of the deals are still fluid, and they get extended. So there's so many moving parts, it's almost impossible to really handicap what's going to happen here. But for some reason, the stock market seems to have gone into a phase where once it started decelerating a couple of weeks after Liberation Day, we're still kind of in that mode. We're setting new highs once in a while. We did see some weakness in the labor market, the revised labor market, but it's still 4.2%. I mean, we haven't, and inflation, we're waiting for Godot on whether that really hits hard. Is it going to be, do you think it's going to be averted, or do you think it's just a matter of time?
Well, as you know, it's very hard to predict the market. I would say, like you just mentioned, we did have a weak jobs report last week. There are signs that inflation is ticking up. So far, we've seen slower growth this year than we did last year. Estimates from the Yale Budget Lab suggest that each American family is going to have to pay another $2,500 a year because of the tariffs that are already kicking in. So again, I think the jury's still out on what this means. Because as you said, the tariff rates are swinging widely. Also, Joe, at first, remember, there were no exemptions whatsoever. And now we're seeing there are some, maybe many. So foreign companies and foreign countries, U.S. companies are continuing to lobby the White House hard to try to poke as many holes into the new policies as possible. 2,500.
I wonder if I've heard that. I heard Chuck Schumer and others say that. So that was the budget office, the nonpartisan budget?
Yeah, Yale University has a budget lab. And,
it's a Yale University study, okay.
Yeah, and CNBC has cited it as well, so it's very well respected.
I know. Yeah, right. What about, you heard, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm glad you also mentioned the new agreements. I will say it's a potentially positive development that the president's threats of exorbitant tariffs have gotten significant trading partners to the negotiating table. So, for example, the EU, Japan, Korea. We now have deals with them, but these deals are really just frameworks right now because, as you know, because you and others have been pressing the administration for details, we have not seen them yet. We really don't know what's been agreed. In some cases, there are discrepancies between what the administration says and what the foreign country says. And we also have no inkling as to whether or not there's going to be an enforcement mechanism in each of these agreements. And as we know, that's going to be really critical to have.
It's one for the ages, Ambassador. And I wish we had we could look into the future. We can't, but I wish we could, because there are two competing viewpoints that this could reset global trade in a very positive way for us, or it could be if you look historically at tariffs, it's never been something that seems to be a universal positive for the entire planet. So I wish we would know. Is it possible, in your view, this could be a huge success, do you think?
I think it's too early to tell. Keep in mind, it's very hard to use tariffs both as a negotiating tool and as a way to increase revenue. And the administration seems to want to do both, because it's a negotiating tool and the U.S. gets what it wants and it's got to give up the tariffs. But if it needs the revenue, it can't do that. So I think this explains, at least in part, why the president has insisted on a baseline tariff for every country, even those with which we actually have a trade surplus, like the UK and Australia. But that way he can say that he's bringing in some revenue, even though it's not as much as he might have hoped. But at the same time, he's backing off the more extreme tariffs to try to avoid retaliation and try to keep the U.S. economy from slowing down further.
I mean, Ambassador, we've got fentanyl. We've got we don't like the way the election went. I think in Brazil, we don't like buying Russian oil. I mean, there are varied and sundry. You got the trade deficit. There's we could add them all up. And I'm not saying that the person that's running the country seems to have the ability to do those things. That's and the courts would have to stop it. But he did get elected, so whatever he decides is worth tariffing is going to be tariffed. They're going to slap him on, Ambassador Sapiro. But why is it slapping? Do you know where that came from? How that started? Do you actually slap that? Don't we always slap the tariffs on?
Yeah, that's the lingo.
Yeah, slap them.
I'm glad you raised Russia, because that's a really interesting development. The president deciding to use secondary tariffs imposed on, first and foremost, India to try to pressure Russia into stopping the war.
Yeah.
Yep. But what's really interesting there is India is not the largest consumer of Russian oil. It's China.
China, yeah.
Yeah. So unless that problem is addressed, this step alone won't have much impact. So we'll have to see what the president decides to do on that.